smash that like button. Woo!
Like and subscribe.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is a quick announcement video about the through hikes I'll be attempting in 2025. This video will just cover 4 through hikes. I intend to do more than 4, but I'm only going to announce 4 here because all of them depend upon fitting it into my current lifestyle. But for the purpose of this video, 4 through hikes. Now, I quite like walking in other countries, so I'm not going to the US this year, but the hikes are all in Europe. They're in England, they're in Scotland, they're in Portugal, they're in France, and they're in Spain. So one of the great things about hiking in a country other than your own is you get to see a different way of doing stuff. You get different foods, different paths, path layouts, different signage, and obviously language and money. It just makes it more interesting. So the 4 through hikes, they're between 75 and 500 miles, and overall it's about 1,000 miles all told. 3 smaller ones and 1 hike that's 500 miles. Probably the biggest news in this announcement, other than doing 4 through hikes, is I'm actually going to do them all with my wife. My wife retired in 2024 and we decided to do all the through hikes together. So whether we're wild camping or going from accommodation to accommodation, all the hikes my wife and I will do together. Okay, the first hike's in Portugal. It's on the Algarve Peninsula. And it does take in part of the Rota Vincentina, I think it's called. If you were a runner, you would think of this as warm weather training. My wife is competing in some 10Ks in the early spring, and we're going to go on holiday after those and just do some nice calm walking in warm weather on cliff tops and on beaches and through villages and so forth. And we're staying in B&Bs at the end of each night, and then flying in and out. So that's the first hike. It's about 75 miles we're going to do. There's nothing really pressured about it. It's just to do the walking and just to get some warm weather. The second hike that we're going to do is actually our big one for the year, It is a Camino. Now obviously I know Camino is a Spanish word and broadly means path or trail, but there are hundreds of Caminos in the world and they are associated with religious journeys. Now, if you talk to any person who's through hiked or done quite a lot of walking and you mention the word Camino, they immediately think of Caminos that are in Spain. And yes, we are doing the most iconic, the most travelled Camino route that starts right on the French-Spanish border in a place which I'll have to look up, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and ending 490, 500 miles later in Santiago de Compostela. So that's the Camino we're going to do. I've seen the distance for it quoted anywhere from 490 to 495 to 500 miles on various websites, whether they're official or just walkers that are creating their own websites. But it is around that sort of distance, and it will take 30 to 35 days. And we will be traveling from albergue to albergue, carrying everything with us. So that is our main hike for the year. And we'll be doing it in late spring, early summer, to try and avoid some of the pitfalls of doing it in the height of summer. And yeah, looking forward to it. Very, very different. Going from albergue to albergue, getting your pilgrim's meal and dealing with everything else that's on the trail. Our third hike, which, being a bit disingenuous calling it a hike, is a 220-mile circular route called King Alfred's Way. It's a route made up for cyclists. You can walk it. It's a bit more difficult to walk it, but we're going to cycle it. It starts and finishes in a place called Winchester. If you're interested in history, in the 900s, 900 AD, 900s, Winchester was sort of historically deemed to be the capital of England, but obviously once the logic of London took over, then it has been London that is the capital. But the great thing about this particular route is we're bikepacking it, which means we're taking our bicycles, which means we can go a bit faster, which means we can visit more. And on the loop, there is Stonehenge, is the Avebury stone circle, which is the start of the Ridgeway Walk. There are multiple Iron Age forts, there are castles, there are 2 cathedrals, one in Winchester and one in Salisbury. And obviously in Salisbury, there's a copy of the Magna Carta. So there's a lot we can see on this particular circular trek. And that will probably do in the summer, just because the weather's quite nice in the summer and doesn't get too hot necessarily in the UK. So that's our third hike that we're going to do. King Alfred's Way, 220 miles, circular route. The fourth hike we're going to do is something called the Hebridean Way. There are a series of islands west coast of Scotland called the Hebridean Islands, and it's a 200-mile walk. You go from island to island. We're doing 10 islands, which encompass the walk. You get from island to island either by a causeway at low tide, or having to take a ferry. And for that particular walk, we are wild camping the whole way, carrying all our kit, and getting to the Hebridean Islands by a long ferry and getting back by a long ferry. So that should be really good fun. Being Scotland, a lot easier to wild camp. You do have that right to pitch your tent, so that would be a much better experience. But that will be the fourth through hike that I'm mentioning on this video. So that's it. 4 through hikes. One in Portugal, a Camino, King Alfred's Way, and the Hebridean Way. So let's see where it takes us.
Smash that like button. Woo!
Like and subscribe.